Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Let's Dev. Now, as you may have heard, recently EA tried to explain to the UK Parliament that loot boxes were completely ethical because they featured what EA called quote-unquote surprise mechanics. Now, regardless of your opinion on the subject matter, this became something of a meme, and for me personally, it struck inspiration. So many ideas for what a surprise mechanic in a video game could be started forming, and so I thought I'd make some of them a reality, or at least one of them, depending on how dead the meme is by the time this video is released. So today we'll be making a version of what EA thinks quote-unquote surprise mechanics are, starting with the most obvious one, loot boxes. And because we're not serious, we'll simply simulate the monetization portion of said mechanics. And when it's all said and done, we'll hopefully have some form of a working project and maybe a better idea if the pursuit of other surprise mechanic inspired minigames are worth our time. So let's not waste any more time and get to the coding. Before recording, I prepped our stage and actually created some graphics for our project. And also because every loot box system needs it, I also coded a fancy unboxing animation for our loot box, aka surprise mechanic. I'm glad I didn't record the construction of any of this because it took literal hours to put together. The lengths I will go for a good chuckle. Anyway, the images to the right are the 5 random items we'll need to unlock via the surprise mechanics in order to level up. To open these cost a little blue crystals. We're naming something fancy like blue Exeter status crystals. Ooh, fancy. Now, first things first, our graphics are made up of 15 different prizes. They include a tennis ball, a rubber ball, which is totally not a reskin of the tennis ball, an apple, a skull, a slot machine for no particular reason, a teddy bear, a mimic chest, a slithery snake, a nondescript, non-copyrighted droid, I mean robot, a commemorative coin made of blue Exeter status crystals but should not be used as a blue Exeter status crystal, a jewel which should not be mistaken for a blue Exeter status crystal, a cone for some reason, some nasty slime, and a flag. Just a flag. We had to first generate our prize list, so I went with using a script. The script loops through an array set up for our prize list and chooses a prize for each entry. If the entry matches another, the prize randomizes until each prize is unique. I ended up spending way more time on this than I thought I would because I tried to cut corners. Don't try to cut corners. It'll make you miss the obvious, like forgetting to define actual array entries and rewriting the damn script over and over again because of it. But with our prize list now generating properly, we now had to check for prize comparisons. In a new script, I had the prize, which is spawned during the unboxing animation, pass on its type as an argument. The argument then loops through our prize list, and if there's a match, that prize is marked off the list. I originally tried to check whether a prize was already marked, but now I realize I'd forgotten that I used 0 and not -1, which explains why this bit of code didn't work until I removed that check. But our comparison code was working, so we now had to account for the super rare gold versions of our prizes. They don't do anything, but hey, they're gold. Gold. So I added a second argument to the comparison script. If the prize itself was determined to be gold, that info would be passed on during the comparison check. And just to make things a little more exciting, gold prizes would set off a burst of golden pixels in celebration. That did it for the main game loop. Now we had to complete it with the level up requirements. I've dealt with so many hurdles at this point that instead of relying on a loop, I manually typed out a specific check for each entry. If all prizes were marked, then the prizes would be reset and add a level to the level counter. This would trigger our script to populate the list with new prizes, and because I wasn't about to rely on luck to help me check if this code worked, I added a dev tool to automatically mark all prizes. So, can confirm this code works. Now, up until this point, we've been focusing on the prizes, but what about those two things below them? Well, those are our Exeter Blue Status Crystal support systems, of course. The yellow button is where, if this were real, players who can't get enough of the surprise mechanics could purchase more Exeter Blue Status Crystals. However, if the player is low on real-world cash, there's always the blue button, which lets them mine for their very own Exeter Blue Status Crystals, which we had to set up. Nothing fancy here. I set up a counter that would count up with each individual click of the button. When I hit the threshold displayed as a bar below the button, the counter resets, adding an Exeter Blue crystal to the pile. And obviously, the other button simply adds a chunk of Exeter Blue status crystals to the pile. Again, because we were under the pretense that those were bought with real world money. And there we had it, a pretty solid minigame featuring a surprise mechanic. I noticed a couple of things wrong. Holy crap, I managed to get a gold item. That was literally a 1 out of 100 chance drop, and okay, this is why checking for the unlock is important. Anyway, yeah, there's a couple of obvious bugs I could iron out as well as added effects, but I was sadly out of time for this session. Again, I'm not sure if I'll continue this one because the surprise mechanic meme likely may be dead by the time this video goes out. So if you'd like to see it continue or maybe even released, microtransaction free of course, be sure to let me know. If you'd like to see what else I have in mind when it comes to the concept of surprise mechanics, also let me know. For now, that'll do it for this episode of Let's Dev. So remember that if you like this video or enjoy Let's Dev in general, be sure to hit that like button. If you aren't already subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button and be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. And as always, be sure to leave your thoughts on our surprise mechanic minigame in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.